Hey guys, it's Andy with Andrigan Gaming, and I wanted to go over a couple of things with you guys. So a lot of you know that here recently I've gotten involved with the Eden Classic server for Final Fantasy XI. Now, just so everybody understands, Final Fantasy XI is my favorite game ever. There's no other game that can quite compare to it. A lot of that is rose-tinted glasses and nostalgia, yes, I admit it. And I think that I've made peace with that recently, probably more from playing on this server than anything before. Now, if any of you guys are returning listeners, you probably know that a few months ago, the Mog House, Hunting for Games, and I did a group session one night where we talked about where Final Fantasy XI came from and where it is now. And in that session, we all were pretty passionate about saying we would never play a 75 cap server again, strictly based on the time constraints of being a normal functioning human adult that has a family and things to take care of, but also because there's so much involved in the process of playing Final Fantasy XI in its 75 cap era state. And I still stick to my guns on that, except for here I am in Eden, which is probably one of the most true to form 75 cap servers there are out there, and I find myself having just as much fun as I did back in 2005. So tonight I wanted to start a series that I'm going to try to do for you guys called First Steps in Vana'Diel. And what this video series is going to be about is helping some people who may be coming back from retail, maybe never played in the 75 cap era as it truly was, to understand a little more about what a classic server is, what you should and shouldn't do, and the best ways to progress. And so with that, I want to go over a couple of important highlights, if you will. So your first moments in retail, currently, would be logging in, creating a character, and once you start, you're dropped in this gigantic world that you may or may not know anything about. But instantly you're bombarded with cutscenes and all kinds of things that are telling you to talk to these people and to do those things. And if you don't pick up on those things quickly, you do what most people do. You Google it. Upon Googling, you might find BG or FFXI Wikipedia. Those websites are going to tell you that you need to start with things like records of eminence or picking up trusts, because that's going to make the game significantly easier. Also, it's going to have you getting started in Rhapsodies of Vana'Diel, which is another great way to improve your character and your progression rate. Well, all those things are really great, and they're things that I do like about retail, but unfortunately, none of those things are present in a 75 cap server. And so, rather than getting bombarded with cutscenes and Googling information about what you should do first, you find yourself dropped into this vast, huge world with no idea what comes next. Well, my first advice would be to equip whatever weapon your job starts with and go outside and start punching some bees. Doesn't matter what zone you start in, usually punching bees is a safe way to get things off the ground. Now, you have 3 cities to choose from, obviously, but depending on which one you start in, things could be a little easier or a little more difficult. I find that Windurst is probably one of the more difficult cities to start from because transporting over to group content is significantly more time investing. But I'm doing it, and it's not that bad once you get a few outposts under your belt and certainly a friend, i.e. the Mog House, that has some teleports. So my next piece of advice would be save every item that you find. First off, Signet is the same, and you definitely want to have it cast on you, so run over to a gate guard, ask him to cast Signet on you for your respective city, and then go out and start punching bees. When you do, you'll find that you earn conquest points that can help you once you start ranking up, as well as it gives you crystals from the enemies that you kill, and those crystals are always going to be in demand, because crafting is very much a thing on a 75 cap server. So make sure you're picking those crystals up because you can sell them at the auction house for some pretty decent starter change. I know that on retail, you can basically print money, as Mog always likes to say, but on a private server, that is not the case. Gil is few and far between, particularly at the early levels, so you want to hang on to every little scrap you find and maximize your profits. That means selling those lizard skins, which I found out apparently go for a lot more money than I ever realized in my old days. Make sure that you're saving these things and checking to see what they're worth at the auction house. You might be surprised. The next advice that I can offer is to pace yourself, because honestly, you don't have trusts backing you up, so that makes things a lot more scary and a lot more difficult. Whenever you're checking enemies, something that says even match can be extremely misleading, so don't take the game's word for that, particularly after you get past level 10, because when it comes to post level 10, a decent challenge can be everything but. Take frequent breaks, hit that H key or your left joystick, and rest. Whenever you start resting, that gives you mana and health back, and you really need to be topped off if you're going to go toe-to-toe with anything decent challenge or above. Realistically, even some easy praise can give you a run for your money, so always be resting. I know it takes more time, and I know it can be frustrating, but I promise you, it's going to be a longer amount of time if you're having to make that run back from the home point crystal. Which brings me to another important point: set your home point frequently. But give it some thought when you get ready to do so, because you're going to be going back there when you die, and there's absolutely nothing worse than being in the middle of a dunes party and getting shot all the way back to Windurst because you forgot to change your home point. That brings me to my next point. Grouping is incredibly important in Final Fantasy XI Classic. Gone are the days of retail where you can level from 1 to 99 solo with trusts. Your trust is going to have to be in other players. And my biggest advice there is, talk to people. Type in /yell, but make sure you keep it within the confines of what your server asks. Most of the time that's looking for groups, selling things, stuff like that. But talk to people. And just remember, on a 75 cap server, your reputation's pretty important. So if people don't like you, then it's going to show up over and over and over again in your career. But if people do like you because you're helpful and you ask good questions, then people won't mind helping you. Now, when I mentioned earlier that the game starts at level 10, it can be easy to get started with a few friends and say, man, I can't wait to get a chance to level with these guys. I figured out the hard way that starting from level 2 and 3 in a group, it's going to take you way longer to get to 10. So find yourself a camp spot where there's not a lot of people farming, go out, and just start solo killing things up till about level 10. Now I will tell you, when you hit level 6, it's gonna get cumbersome. Things are gonna feel like they slow down because the enemies that you can kill don't render anywhere near as much experience points, but I promise you, it will be worth it. Now after you hit level 10, it's time to start considering group content. For us Windurstians, that's a little more difficult because you gotta find the way to get to the dunes. I mean, after all, the dunes is where everyone else is. So you wanna get there, but the trek through Tarangi and Baburamu can be a little overwhelming. So just take care, and if you're lucky enough to make some friends, they can help you get through those areas a little more safely. If not, it might be worth saving up a little bit of cash and getting some prism powders and sneak oils from the auction house, because those will serve you well. Now once you get to the dunes, that's when the game really starts to take form, because that's when you gotta find other people and rely on them to help you get through this game. Keep in mind that you do serve a role in a party. If you're a warrior, a paladin, maybe even a ninja, you're gonna want a tank. If you're a red mage, a white mage, or maybe even a summoner, you gotta heal. Red mage is not so much. You might want to stick to debuffing and nuking. Just remember that every job was created with a party-focused role in mind, and you need to be willing to fill those parts if you're going to be successful in group content and continue to get invites back into the game. Well guys, that's about the best information that I can give you on your first legs in Vana'Diel, especially on a classic server, but there's a lot more to cover, and I'm going to be doing that really soon. So keep an eye out for the next video when we talk about getting your sub job, how you do that in Classic, and how the game really takes off from there. Outside of that, till next time, I'm Andy with Andrigan Gaming. Deuces. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider hitting the like button, and think about subscribing to the channel. We got a lot of Final Fantasy XI content on there, and a lot more to come. You can also follow me on Twitter, @Andrigan Gaming.